Hi, I'm Madison Manduke, and today I'm going to show you how to make kiwi cookies. Okay, so there's no actual kiwi in them, but when they're done, they'll look like a slice of kiwi. So I'm going to start with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Into that, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder, and I'm adding unsweetened because we want to control the amount of sugar in here. So make sure it's unsweetened. And then 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And just whisk these together. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it pretty much combined because you don't want one spot, like a pocket of baking powder in the dough so that only one cookie rises and all the rest are really flat. And so in the other bowl, I want to combine 1/2 cup, that's 1 stick of butter, and try to get the unsalted butter because we already have salt in the dough. And 1 cup of wholesome sweeteners, organic sugar. And then just beat these together, and you want it to be sort of fluffy. And you're gonna have to scrape down the sides a little with a rubber spatula because at first the butter gets all over the sides and it just kind of coats the bowl. There, see when it's all fluffy like that? That's when you want to add 1 egg, and make sure that's fully incorporated before you add 1.5 teaspoons of Nielsen-Massey's vanilla extract. And I usually just measure with the cap. Scrape down the sides. And this is a really easy recipe because what these are just chocolate cookies that we're gonna frost to look like kiwi. Okay, so I'm gonna add about 1/3 of the dry ingredients to the butter and sugar mixture. And we want to only add a little bit at a time because for one thing, the flour has to absorb all the wet ingredients so that it doesn't fall apart and get all crumbly. And also, because if you added the whole thing all at once, it would get everywhere. The flour would just spray all over your kitchen, and that wouldn't be very fun to clean up. I'm gonna add another addition. It smells really chocolatey, which is a good thing. And then the last bit of the dry ingredient. So that's the dough. And to make these round, you could chill the dough for about 2 hours and roll it out and cut it with a biscuit cutter or round cookie cutter. But to make a little less of a mess and also to make it go a little faster, and we're going to roll it into a log and freeze it. And then we're going to slice it and bake it. I want a piece of wax paper, about 18 inches by 12 inches. Doesn't have to be exact, but I'm just gonna put the dough onto the wax paper and just dump it on right now. Just kind of shape it into a log to get it started. And then fold it over and just press it into the form of like a cylinder. And I usually just kind of like roll it almost, but just to get it into that shape. And then I usually like to twist the edges and fold them down. And then just put it in the freezer for half an hour to a full hour until it's pretty hard. So now we're gonna make the icing for the cookies. And I'm gonna start with 1.5 cups of wholesome sweeteners organic powdered sugar, and I'm gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of Nielsen Massey vanilla extract, 2 tablespoons of butter, and the butter adds creaminess and flavor to the frosting. And I really like this icing because it sets up really well, and also it doesn't have any raw egg whites or things that could get you sick. And it's really easy, just a few ingredients. And we added the milk, and we might need more. You need more or less depending on how well the powdered sugar is absorbing that day, the humidity. A lot of things depend on how much liquid to add. And it's a little browner because of the vanilla extract. That's okay because we're going to color it anyway. Okay, so it looks like the perfect consistency. So I'm going to put about a third, not about a quarter actually, of this icing into a separate bowl, because that's going to be the center of the kiwis, and we want one darker than the other. So to the one in the little bowl, I'm barely going to add any food coloring, just a little bit. Just 1 drop should do. And then the other one, I'm going to start with about 3 drops. Oh, look, that's the perfect color. And you could add some yellow to this if you wanted it to be a little brighter. But, I think this looks fine. Now we're going to shape the cookies to make them into the round base. And I have a piece of dental floss, and I find that that's the easiest way to cut this. And make sure it's not flavored dental floss. So just put the dental floss underneath about halfway through. Just slide it down, and then just squeeze it that way. And then you end up with 2 halves. And then you want to get about 6 to 8 pieces out of each half. So remember to have your oven preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're about done slicing. And you'll get about 12 to 16 cookies depending on, how big the end ones end up getting. How thick you cut them. And then bake them in the preheated 350 degree oven for about 10 to 12 minutes, or until they're just done on the bottom, but they'll still look not as done on the top. Start decorating the cookies, and I'm going to take 1 cookie and just take a spoonful of the dark green frosting and put it right over the top, and then use the back of the spoon to spread it out so that you leave a pretty small border around the outside of the cookie. You might need more or less frosting depending on how big your spoon is or how big the cookie is. And just smear it around, and then take a dollop of the lighter green icing, just a little bit, and put it right in the center. And then take some black nonpareils, and these are going to be the seeds, and you just sprinkle them right around the outside of the lighter green circle. There you go. That is how you make a kiwi cookie, and I hope you guys like this recipe, and I hope everyone out there is inspired to make them. Thanks for watching.